What's going on, guys? Welcome to the Dig It podcast. I'm your host, Drew Walsh, and today we have Silent Rain Espinoza in the house for the first time here on season 2, and we're super excited. Sai is someone that we got to actually meet in person for the past couple years and get some infield work in, and just continue to build the relationship and watch her journey from the University of Washington as a softball stud, and then now with the USSA Florida Pride?
Yeah, we say U-Trip, U-Triple-S-A Pride.
U-Trip is probably a little more efficient, but Sai is born and raised in San Diego, California, went to Granite Hills, and was recruited to go. No!
Christian High.
Yo, I got to fact check. I don't know why I thought that. We're not editing that.
It's okay.
So, just kidding. Proximity of Granite Hills is what, like a mile?
Yeah, not even.
Stay hot. All right. So she went to Christian High. I'm sorry, Christian High School softball.
Okay.
And we're excited to get rocking and rolling. Sai just got done playing at University of Washington and is a stud softball player, even better human being, and has so much insight. For those who may be, pursuing college softball, baseball, or just got done and they're like, what now? Silent Rain Espinoza, welcome to the Dig It podcast.
Thanks for having me, Drew. I'm excited to be here.
Awesome. My pleasure. I'm glad that I did my due diligence, that you went to Granite Hills. Yeah, sorry about that. But Sai, what is up? It's been a minute since we, I think it was this previous winter, we got some ground ball work in, and Sai's absolute technician with the leather. And it's really fun to watch you move around and play. And the biggest thing with college infielders when they come back, it's a different conversation, right? It's less constraint work. It's less drill intervention. It's more just like, how's our reads, right? Like, how's our first step? Like, how do we feel going right, left on throwing, like athletic throwing type things? Just great, like, in reflection, right? So, Sai, let's just give a background to our listeners, where you're from and how you got here today, and then we'll kind of just bob and weave from there.
Awesome. Yeah. So grew up in San Diego, like Drew said, started playing softball when I was 4 years old. I got into softball initially through my reservation, through V.A.H.A.S. They had a league through intertribal sports, and I was 4 years old playing t-ball with all my cousins, and we'd travel and go play against other softball teams from different reservations. So that's how I initially got into softball. Was still playing a bunch of other sports, doing dance, doing gymnastics. But softball was the one sport that kind of stuck. And my family loved that. My mom and my aunt both played softball. And then on my dad's side, my whole big family played softball. My great grandpa was actually one of the best fast pitch pitchers around. And the field, the field that I grew up playing on was named after him on the reservation. But yeah, so that's kind of how softball came about. Kept playing. Found out I was kind of good, decent.
When did you know, like, okay, I'm just kind of different? When did you realize that you were playing at a higher level than your peers?
I think I never really personally, realized it. I think I was just always kind of working harder and doing more than I think my peers around me. And then come 7th and 8th grade, I started going to camps, and colleges kind of started showing interest, and I was getting mail. And so then I was like, okay, like, I want to play in college. Grew up watching the World Series, and I was like, wow, that's awesome. But never really was like, I'm going to be at that level until I got older and I met Jen Salling, who played at the University of Washington. She was down in San Diego, and we connected and started doing infield lessons with her. And she was like, you need to go up to a camp in Seattle. And I was like, okay, so we come up here.
Where's Seattle?
Yeah, exactly. I had watched UW like in the World Series and I'm like, love them. I'm like, okay, cool. Like, let's go to Seattle. So came up here my 8th grade year, fell in love with the coaches and the atmosphere and the girls. And then my freshman year of high school, I committed, verbally committed. And so went to a couple during that time, went to a couple other colleges and but nothing really stood out to me or I connected with as much as Washington did. And yeah, verbally committed my freshman year of high school. That was before all the rules and recruiting and everything changed. But yeah, so then my 4 years of high school at Christian,
Christian. Yeah.
at Christian High,
Well
we
played. Well played.
we actually won 2 CIF championships and for the softball team. But yeah, and then was training pretty much all of high school to come up here and play. And then yep, college came about.
Let's
Freshman,
stop there before we
yeah,
get into college,
gonna
because
say
there's that's a whole nother podcast.
yes, yeah.
So high school, like, saw some success. You were
Mhm.
ignited and inspired prior to entering high school, like, okay, I got something here. I'm really passionate about it. I'm gonna give this a full go. And
Yeah.
Jen Salling is someone I'm familiar with, right? She's an Olympian,
Mhm.
correct?
Yes.
She's a former UW as well, right?
Yes. Yeah.
UW lineage is long, man, and strong. So
It's strong. It's very
that's
strong.
awesome to have someone come in there as like a mentor and be like, yo, I was there, I did it, I see you, I know you can do it. That's really, really a pivotal little moment in that the development process, physically, mentally. So that's super cool to hear. I didn't
Yeah.
know that.
Yeah. Mentally, I think that was kind of the turning point where I was like, I could play at this level. Like if Jen is like giving me the confidence to do it, like I need to run with it and let's go. Like I can do this. So I think that was
Love that.
kind of a turning point for me, having someone that believes in you and is giving you that confidence is can be life changing.
100%. I think if we all think back, we all have that someone, and it could be a peer, could be a brother, it could be a teammate, it could be your parents, could be a coach. And I was just talking on a previous podcast with Coach Meg Rem, just about how important it is for the youth to watch the game. Like, I
Yeah.
understand you got to play, yada yada yada, but just to watch, especially if you're that close to them, you're a few years removed from that player in college, right? It's really good to see them move around and navigate at that level, because you may not be as far as you previously thought, which
No,
will
yeah.
ignite, that passion and discipline to work really hard, because that's what it takes.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Well,
Um,
through high school, I was watching the World Series and I knew like all the girl not all the girls, but like a lot of the girls on the teams and um obviously the UW players because I would go up like once or twice a year throughout high school to Seattle just to come to a camp and be around the coaches and them to kind of see how I'm progressing with my skills and everything. But I think getting to know the players and the coaches before even getting to college was really good for me. So that when I got here, it wasn't something brand new. I had kind of been around and gotten to know people and how the program was run. And I think that was very important for me personally.
Now, there's a great point too. There's so many kids going, the recruiting process is overwhelming,
Yeah.
in a lot of different ways, right? Just the unknown, like you work so hard, and that's all you want is to play at the next level. And then just there's so many options, and there's a heavy, heavy pressure to play at the highest level, Division 1, right? Like, we think that's the pinnacle and the only thing you can or should play,
Mhm.
which I don't. I think it's a great North Star to have, to play at the highest level, right? Like, get the most out of yourself. But there's so many places for so many people. There's a college for everybody. That's what I try and always tell my middle school, high school athletes, like there's a place for you. You just got to find it and be open to a possible Division 2, Division 3 NAIA school. And also, I think a great point that you just have is like, meet the coaching staff and see if the school is for you, because God forbid softball was gone one day, right? You're still at the
Yeah.
school, and transferring is it's a tough process. Like there's a lot that goes into it. So there's what help like would you say that was obviously UW speaks for itself, but getting to know the coaching staff, the program, the area, right? Like the studies, was that a big was that super helpful for you going into that process?
Yeah. So a degree from University of Washington it's like a good degree. And school
Mm-hmm.
when I got here was hard. Like it was in high school, I never really had to like study a whole lot. I had good grades. But when I got here, I was like, okay, like school is no joke and softball is no joke. So kind of having to restructure the way I went about school. And that was one thing that Coach Tar like stressed before I committed was like schooling here is not easy. Like UW degree is like a big deal in itself. So, are you going to be able to manage this type of schooling along with this level of softball? So I do think it's very important in the recruiting process to, yes, get to know the softball side of things or baseball side of things, but also the schooling. And like you said, like if softball was gone, would this be a school that I wanted to go to? And it was. Um, I also think recruiting right now, I think it's a good thing that the rule has changed to where you can't commit. I think it's until senior year, but giving yourself that time, I was what, 14 years old when I verbally committed.
Wild.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so I think it's good giving these kids time to figure out what they truly want. And, outside of the softball and baseball part, like the school itself and the people, um, I was just lucky enough to come to a school that I loved for the schooling and the atmosphere and the people and the softball. So yeah.
I love that. And now you get on the campus, right? And you've worked your butt off to get there. You've had a lot of success going into college, right? And you deserved it all to put yourself in that position. But now you get there and everyone's a stud, right? Like, and then you got bona fide studs who've been there for a few years and created a
Yeah.
brand for them and a legacy for themselves. And then talk to me about, like, if you reflect back to that feeling freshman year, like,
Yeah.
damn.
So, I think it was my senior year, I had met Sis at a USA softball thing. And so I kind of got to know her before I got there. And then before freshman year, like during the summer, before I had gone up there, it was kind of like an unspoken, not rule, but like an unspoken thing where freshmen come up early. Like I think I came up about a month early before school started. And we would go work out. Some of the older ones would still be here and we'd go work out, we'd go to the field, and then we'd have the rest of the day to just hang out. And we would live at some of the older girls' houses up here in Seattle. So it was like the best time of my life, I think, being up here during the summer. Like we would all go lift together, we would all go to the field together, and then we just hang out. So I think building that chemistry, like team chemistry part of it was so big for me, and building those relationships with the girls was so crucial, and just me feeling comfortable my freshman year, like not being thrown in first day of school, first day of practice, like into a whole new environment. I think it was the best times for me to like build that trust in myself that I'm like, okay, I'm up here, like I can do this. My parents are gone. Like I'm with the girls, like the older ones like took me under their wing because I had a big class my freshman year. I think there was 8 of us. So we like split up between houses. There was like 4 of us in one softball house and 4 of us in another, but it was honestly the best times, and it really like laid the foundation for my next 5 years at UW. So
That's awesome. Couple of like
yeah.
different things I want to dive into there. I just think, I just say this generally, it's so powerful to get out of your home community and go travel to another college and kind
Mhm.
of be on your own and find independence.
Yeah.
To that point also, as much as you're on your own, I just remember first day of school just having 28 friends, right? Like that was, we had 28 guys on our roster, and like from day one it was like, hey Walsh, you want to come get some GBs? Hey
Yeah.
Walsh, want to go work? Hey Walsh, yeah, yes. Like I don't even, what's your name again? Like I don't know everybody, and my head's spinning, but it was just really cool. And the school I went to was super small. LIU Brooklyn was this, it was a grid in the heart of downtown Brooklyn, super small campus, but your campus was New York City.
Yeah.
And it was really special. Everything was on campus, our field, our batting cage. And like you said, there was just that excitement and terrifiement, like of like, oh my God, like we can go hit, let's go do this, let's go that. And there was like freedom, but you were just like, whoa, I don't know what to do with my hands, Talladega Nights type thing. And
Yeah.
then now, what else? There's one more point I kind of wanted to unravel to that. Let's just, so, all right, let's move on to, more like the playing reflection of your, like, get a couple of bullet points that stick out to you when you look back at UW. And you had a couple of things that you couldn't control, like COVID, that was a part of your undergrad process.
Yeah.
And you had a grind. You went to one of the best softball programs in the nation, and that's a daunting task. So just what are
Yeah.
some bullet points that stick out to you in your playing career besides resilience?
Yeah. I think, it was very intimidating coming into this level of a softball school, but knowing that there was a reason I was here and there was a reason that I was recruited to go here, you kind of put these ideas in your head that you're like, oh, do I belong here? Oh, am I as good as these girls, But being like, no, there's a reason that 4 years ago, these coaches saw potential in me. And, I'm here for a reason. And I'm going to do everything I can to make that starting, or even if you're not starting, but do everything I can for the team first, but also like mentally knowing that you belong here. And I think that is one of the toughest things about playing at any level is thinking that you don't belong. Um, but yeah, that's kind of what I have to say about that.
And if I could fast forward that, like just like the working professional, a popular phrase is imposter syndrome. Like, I shouldn't be here. I don't deserve this. I'm not as good as other people.
Yeah.
And I think ultimately that just boils back to your mind, right? Your conscious mind wants to keep you in this comfort zone, right? It doesn't like fear, it wants to control things around it, surprises, elements, does not like that stuff. So anything new, it's trying to deflect, and it's finding any excuse it can to divert you to stay within that confine. So when you get into
Mm.
that environment that you walked into, those voices are really loud, right? Like, they're like, Sai, you ain't as good as, you ain't sis, you ain't this, you ain't that.
Yeah.
And they're real. Like, you're not gonna not hear them. It's just a matter of the action that you take from there, right? Like,
Yeah.
okay, like I hear that voice, but I'm gonna turn the volume down and go with something that's gotten me here, and that was work ethic, grit, right? Like I just grinded to get here, and that's all I know. So I'm just gonna go back to that when those voices get loud, go to what I know, and that's work hard, grind, and be a student of the game. And I
Exactly.
think that happens in, what do you got?
Yeah. Um, I just think back to like freshman year, and when those voices would start getting loud, I almost played smaller and like crawled, like felt myself like contracting into like a little ball, like even on the field or like going into practice, like just feeling like, oh my gosh, like I could just feel myself like compressing. But as I got older and more mature and more mentally tough, I think I realized that in order for those voices to like go away and for me to play confidently, it was like I needed to get external. And I realized that I'm a very like vocal and external person. I was just always, not always, but like I compressed myself down. Um, and I remember freshman year, like looking over and being like, I'm playing next to probably the greatest shortstop like I've ever seen, sis. And I'm like, do I belong here? And I'm like, yes, I belong. Like, I belong here. There's a reason that I'm playing here right now as a freshman. So I think realizing how good you are and being confident in it is key. And what was key for me was not compressing myself into a little ball, but like being external and being confident, even if you have to fake it, like fake the
For
confidence,
real.
because it made me just play free. Like I feel like when I was compressed into a small ball is when I was like tense and I couldn't move and I just didn't, like nothing flowed. So I think like playing external and playing, because ultimately like you want to play free. Like you want to let your body move how it knows how to move. And I couldn't do that when I was like so timid and worried about making an error. So
There's so many things we're gonna unravel there, but where did you find most success to reverse that constricted, hesitant, fearful mindset?
I think a lot of it had to do with breathing, which is sounds very weird, but being able to control my heart rate and control my breath was like very key for me. Um, Also visualizing, like visualizing myself on the field and in the box, and so that when I was out on the field and when I was in the box, like it didn't feel so scary. Like putting myself mentally in situations that could come up, like runner on second, one out, like we need to score that run, like putting myself in those situations mentally so that when it came up and I wanted to be that person, you know, that was gonna make it happen, or that person on the field that was gonna make the last out. Like ultimately, as an athlete, like we're all competitive and we want to be in those situations, but it's learning how to mentally prepare for those situations, because we've all taken thousands of ground balls, thousands of swings. But how many of those swings and in those ground balls and in those situations were you mentally preparing in practice? You know, like you can go out and take ground balls. Yes, and it's good to work on the physical part of it, the physical skills, but how many of those reps are you putting your mind in those situations so that when come game time, you're not scared, you're prepared. Wow, that
So
rhymed.
much. We could literally just stop the podcast there, because like from the moments I gets to college to the moments I feels pressure and constricted to the moments I figured out how to get to the other side of that bridge, that's the magic potion for these athletes. That's what all the successful athletes, when they reflect back, and if their coaches are still playing and they're just speaking about their college days, or when they had started to see success, it's there in that little bridge in between the ears, right? Like you're pretty talented to put yourself in that Division 1 university at that platform, right? That level of play, but just to have success there, I've seen a lot of kids in college were more skilled than I was, but if you look at paper after 4 years, maybe they didn't have as much success as I did. And I don't say that as a me thing. It's just like maybe they didn't find the inner ears, or they didn't dive deep enough to uncomfortable spaces to figure out how to get to the other side of that talent that you have. Because talent is great, skill, great, but that could be really, really suffocated by the fear of failure. And
Yeah.
I'm super passionate about, when I coach athletes, whether it's an 8-year-old or a professional guy, just understanding like, I'll ask them, hey, you want to be the best infielder in San Diego? Yeah, everyone raise their hand.
Yeah.
But do you really want to be the best infielder in San Diego? Because if you do, you have to be ready to fail a lot and look silly, feel silly, see what it's like to not have success all the time, to understand how to navigate that obstacle course that you're about to embark on.
Yeah.
So much go, and the breath thing is amazing. And it sounds weird because we're just like, we're all gonna be macho and just like figure it out, right?
Yeah.
But the breath, it's a physiological state that you're changing. The breath, we have our parasympathetic, our sympathetic system. Sympathetic is fight or flight. It's primitive. It's it's your ability to evade. Uh, I guess I would say an attack, right? Like that's kind of like back in the day. If we hear a line coming up, we need to get out of harm's way. Parasympathetic is like, think about more calm state, yoga, control your breath. Controlling the breath is just your ability to communicate with your limbs and your body and react to your environment. So all that stuff makes complete sense. But I agree with you. If you told me that when I was playing, I'd be like, yeah, kick rocks. Like, I'm not breathing. I got to hit this 95-mile-an-hour fastball. What?
Yeah. Yeah. That was
So
my freshman year too. Like I didn't realize a lot of this until my later years, which like I wish my freshman year I would have been smarter, but that comes
hindsight.
with growing and maturing. So
There's a couple different ways we can go with that, because all that led to where you are today.
mhm.
Another we talk about, when you get to the university, you got 000 next to Silent Rain Espinoza. All right. A lot of success throughout your career at Christian High and down that journey. But 000 next to Silent Rain Espinoza, what would you say to those freshmen entering, like, they're pretty early on in their spring season and they have a couple ABs, I'm sure, but like mentally, it just means know your role. Like it doesn't mean you can't be confident, but it just knows that like you are at the beginning of this journey. You don't know it all, right? Like you don't know it all. Find someone who does, aka Sis Bates, and mirror her. Like figure like, how does she go about her business? How does she go about failing? How does she go about success? What is she doing after practice, before practice? What is she doing in the classroom? Like that's probably a good place to start, right?
No, exactly. And like you said, like owning your role, that was very key for me. Just because at the beginning of season, freshman year, I wasn't a starter, and I was like, no problem. Like I am here to learn. I'm just happy to be here, at that point.
Right.
Um, but still, like there's that competitive side of me that was like, all right, well, no, I want to be on the field, and how am I going to make that happen? But also learning from the people around me, I think was key. And I was lucky enough to go to a school where everyone around me was freaking good. So it wasn't too hard to find someone to, you know, look up to and copy what they're doing. Um, but yeah, I think going in as a freshman, owning your role, if that's not a starting role, if you're going in for pinch at bats, if you're going in to play defense in the last couple of innings, like owning that role and being the best at it that you possibly can. But also, if you want to be in that starting nine, like find a way to make it happen. And if you want it bad enough, then you'll figure it out.
And if you're not in it, own that, be a good teammate, but then
Yes.
understand, like, after the game, go work. Before the game, go work. Um, or just be ready. Like, be ready to pinch hit. Because, like, we've
Yeah.
just all been there. My freshman year, it started with a start, started with a pinch hit, started with another pinch hit. Walsh, you're in right field. You know, like in pregame, my coach like, "Hey, do you play outfield?" I'm like, "Yeah, I do now." I'm like, "All right, well, grab a glove." I'm like, "Can I borrow an outfield glove? I got to go play right field." And that just allowed me to garner experience at that level because from high school to Division 1, the physicality, the speed, everything about it is so much faster. And
Mhm.
that is where you need to mentally grab grab the ground. Like mentally, you need to stabilize your feet to see this game at a different speed. Obviously, there's skill things, but there's a lot of great points you made on that. Let's do you have a few highlights of your college career looking back where you're like, when I think about my college career, I think of this moment?
I think of my freshman year when we went to the World Series and we went out to practice. Like every team got to practice on the field before the game started, but really just being so grateful to be there. And now that I look back on it, like during the time, like I should have been so proud of myself for like making my little girl dream a reality, like I grew up watching the World Series and then here I was my freshman year playing on that field, so just being grateful and proud of yourself is something that I wish I could tell my freshman, sophomore, junior me, just to like, you've accomplished so much. And yes, like there's always more, and always like push yourself and be the best that you can, but also like take the time to like be gracious with yourself and like see how far you've come. So that's a big thing that I look back on, but also one of the like best moments I think for myself in my entire softball career was our game against McNeese my 5th year when we
I
were
was watching
yeah
sick comeback.
when we were down 6 runs, and it was the fifth or sixth inning. We were down 6 runs, and if we lose that game, we're done. Like my career at that point, I wasn't sure if I was going to play pro. Um, if we lost that game, like we're done. Like I was genuinely almost having like real life like thoughts.
Yes.
And I was like, wow, like this whole chapter of my life could be done right now. And then us coming back to win that game, it was like it still gives me chills. Like I can't really I
Sammy
don't even
Reynolds, right, with the
I
double to
yes,
left center. That
yes.
game was
I
just me and my wife. We watch every college softball game,
yeah.
World Series game, and we were just like A in awe that they didn't take out the pitcher. B, we're just like, oh my god, this is
Oh my
insane.
gosh, I know. And it really shows you like how much of a team sport this game is, because we went through the lineup that whole inning where we came back, and each person had a role and they did their role. So just seeing how like the chemistry and the energy just like continued to build off each other was like just my whole career packed into like one inning
Yes,
of just like everything that you learn. Like this is a team sport, like energy is contagious, like all of those things you hear and you learn, like I felt within one inning. And like it still gives me goosebumps to this day, even just like thinking about it and thinking those feelings and those emotions that we were all collectively feeling was amazing. And like you can't really describe the feeling unless you feel it.
that's and one thing to add to like the team aspect, like everyone just do your job and we'll be okay. Like do your
Yes.
job, just get on base, right?
Yeah.
And you guys, if I recall correctly, I feel like it wasn't like it was like a grand slam. I feel like it was just like walk, hit, single, 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 double, single. It wasn't like this like quick process. So like the odds of that happening are even lesser. So
Yeah.
that was an epic game to watch,
Yeah.
and it's
And
cool
if
to
you
hear.
If you haven't watched it, you need to go watch the highlights.
Yeah, that's why you gotta like youth athletes watch sports just to see the magic of it, right? You literally it's not over until it's over. And all
Literally.
those there's in that one inning, there was 54 life lessons, right? So watch, watch like watch high level sports, youth athletes, please.
If you want to play at that
Um,
level, like you should be watching. Or you should like
100%.
love to watch. I don't know.
There's a lot of
But
distractions, and that's a whole nother podcast. I think it's the distractions are more so excuses. But
yeah.
let's all right. For everybody, softball, baseball ends one day, right? Like for everybody, some sooner than others. Your
Mhm.
your career is far from over. Your college career ended, right? Dot dot dot. Like all the emotions. Silent Rain Espinoza's identity, just like a lot of us as an athlete, right? Like that was our identity for a while. And we didn't know if you were going to play again. So maybe your playing days were over. I don't doubt you had any intent to stay involved at some capacity. But take us through that journey until today, like done playing college softball. Like what happens now?
Yeah. So my senior year and fifth year, I was starting to coach more, give lessons more. So come my fifth year, I was like, okay, like maybe I do want to go play pro. That didn't initially happen right off the bat. And I went into my pro season a little bit late. Like the pro season was like a week in before I went out and got my contract and everything. But yeah, I wasn't after the World Series, I was done at that point. I was like, okay, like we'll start to figure this out. Like I'm gonna need a week after the World Series to like decompress and but then I'll start to figure things out. And then I got a call to go play pro. And I was like, let's do it. Like I love the game. I don't want to be done. And went to go play pro for 3 months. Did really well and got asked to come back and sign another contract. So I did that. And honestly, right now, like, is a very like pivotal time, but also like you said, like I'm trying to take it slow and figure out my passions outside of softball because pro softball right now isn't what it should be, which is very sad, but I'm still coaching and giving lessons and I love doing that, but trying to find what I'm passionate about outside of that has been something that I'm really working on. And it's nice, like not like getting to go train because I enjoy working out in itself, but like getting to go train on my own and figuring out what works best for me in terms of softball, in terms of hitting, in terms of fielding, but also like what works for me and my body and figuring out it's kind of like I'm relearning everything
Yeah.
in a way, because for the past 10 years now, like my training schedule was planned out for me, especially throughout college. Like you're on a strict schedule, but right now it's kind of nice being able to take the time to figure out what works best for me. Um, but yeah, that's kind of what I had to say about that.
And I love that. Like you have discipline to take what you've learned, figure out what's worked for you as far as like the training side of things, continue to implement that, and maybe take away a few things that you're like, that didn't work well for me. I didn't feel great during that training season, blah, blah, blah. But I think there's probably a lot of people like who just never lived a day in their life after college sports because of the sacrifice and a lot of 6 a.m. mornings, you had to wake up and go run, sprint tag, training
Yeah.
until you felt like you're going to throw up. Like,
Yeah.
that not everybody loves that. And I hope that athletes figure out like you're still an athlete. You're an adult athlete. You're a life athlete. Like please, like take care of your body for life like you would have for your sport, because there's just so many things. Your life, the days of you, the years of you living versus the years of you as a playing athlete are a lot longer, I hope. And you want to keep it that way. You want to prolong that. So, me and my wife are just catching up on that, like just like the state of like health and conditioning with like high school athletes. It's like, yo, you guys got to work on your body more in a like a conditioning sense, like work at it, because it's going to help you mentally, like especially if you don't like it. The more and more you could tally wins or days where you went to the gym even though you didn't want to, yes, physically it helps you. Yes, there's transferability to your sport. But ultimately, I think what we see now is like you're building mental fortitude for the things that you don't like in life that are hard to do and really easy to do and really easy not to do. You're winning there. You're
Mhm.
putting points up on that board that you need to for a long time,
And I
if that
think,
makes sense.
yeah, and I think sports is a good foundation in general for like building the health and fitness part of your life. But like the discipline part is key, like you said, like those days where you don't feel like going to work out or don't feel like going to the gym. Like those days, like rest days, yes, we love them. We have to have them. But like having the discipline to go out and do the workouts that you don't necessarily want to do every day, but I was lucky enough to have coaches growing up, before I got to college, that stress the importance of conditioning, and like, let's be honest, no one like really loves conditioning. I mean, if you do, you're kind of crazy, but like growing up with coaches that like stress the importance of that, so that now like it was a foundation for me. So now I'm like, just to like feel healthy and good in my body, like I still work out. And even if I wasn't playing pro, like I would still be doing what I'm doing now in terms of working out, like maybe not as much in terms of like lifting and stuff like that, but I would still be finding ways to move my body and stay healthy and keep my body healthy.
I love that. Listen, don't let softball, don't let baseball identify or be your self-esteem, right? Like your performance shouldn't be your self-esteem. Because listen, like you go out into when you get done, I guess what I'm trying to say is sports are hard, right? Like especially baseball, softball, super hard. I'd venture to say life's harder, right? Like you're going to continue to have these challenges in your way, these obstacles in your way. So if you're just going to say, throw sports to the side, I'm done with challenges, I think you're setting yourself up for a big smack in the face. So, you know, make sure you're taking care of your body physically, because it ultimately really what happens is it takes care of your mental state,
Yeah.
which you're going to need in life because life's hard, right? There's
No,
a lot of
yeah. 'Cause
challenges.
I
Um,
I remember
go.
thinking like life was gonna be like at the point during my fifth year when I didn't think I was gonna be playing pro or anything. I was like, okay, life is gonna be like easy after this. Like
Eh,
going from playing 5 years at a Division 1 level, like with school and getting a master's degree and doing all this, I'm like, okay, life, like
eh,
I got this. But then for those couple weeks where I was like, oh shoot, like what am I gonna do?
yeah.
And even just with playing pro, life is hard, but like having the foundation of sports and being like having to go through mental things, especially with softball and baseball, like the mental failures that you endure every practice and every day, I think really just sets you up long term for life with those. Like how are you going to recover from that failure? How are you going to recover from not getting the job that you thought you were supposed to end up with? So I think learning how the I think from what I've learned through softball and learning how to recover is going to be key for me for the rest of my life. Learning how to bounce back after things that didn't necessarily go the way that I thought they were going to go.
I love that. And that's why sports are
Mhm.
such a good teacher, and let them be. And coaches at times need to remove themselves from, you know, intervening a lot between the student and the game, and especially parents want to get in the way of everything, and they want to remove obstacles within the game from for their children. And they gotta learn to let the game be the teacher so the kid can learn, because we're looking backwards here.
Yeah.
So just let the game be a teacher. And to your point earlier, when you thought that college was really hard and then future would be easy, I think it's just like you could kind of put it underneath like those were the days type statement, because I look back to college and those were the days. I look back to high school, those were the days. I look back to my mid 20s, right? Like those were the days. But today is the day, right? Like that, like eventually you're going to look back at today and say that was the day. So it's just a quick little brief reminder: be where your feet are, be present, which
Yeah.
also segues me into, listen, Sai might not go into it, but I want to bring a moment for you to measure backwards and be grateful for all that you've accomplished, because a few days ago, this pretty big company called Nike signed a new athlete.
Yes.
Congratulations. We have a new Nike athlete. And I just taken
Mhm.
this moment like today and just measure backwards to everything you've done leading to this moment, and be grateful for that and proud of yourself.
Yeah, no, exactly. And I appreciate you doing that because I don't think I've even taken the time or mentally.
You're a Nike athlete. Like
Yeah.
what, like you
Yeah.
are a Nike athlete, signed, sealed, delivered. That's freaking amazing.
Yeah, and just being grateful for having such a strong support system growing up, my family, my faith in God and how this was his plan, and I never saw it from my four-year-old self starting out to play, but just knowing that there was always a plan that God had for me, and just grateful enough to have family that supported me and kind of helped me get here. So
So amazing. Just the beginning. Um, and we kind of spoke off air a little bit about, you're like, I got so much time on my hands. I just want to make sure I do this. So, just enjoy today. Don't chase time, right? Like you have so much time to figure out what you ultimately want to do. It's insane. Like
yeah.
you're so early on in this new journey of yours. Be Enjoy the time you have on your hands. Enjoy the uncertainties. Enjoy your wins. Learn from the losses. And I think a lot of athletes who just get done, it's a big gap that they now have to fill. And there's a lot of structure for them. They had to be class, school, workout, study hall, class, school for 4 years. And now what do? You have this whole new arena.
Mhm.
Um, don't I think, looking back, hindsight, you have so much time to explore the world, go travel, get immersed in different cultures,
Yeah.
try new things, try interest, pursue them hard, because the money thing, you could always make money. There's so many ways to make money, but time is tough, right? It's finite.
Mhm.
Travel, get a, get immersed in new cultures, and say yes to things and allow yourself to fail. If I had any unsolicited advice to you,
I
um,
appreciate that.
and if you could relay that to someone who maybe is a little bit lost in their ways, getting done playing a collegiate sport, or just, they stop working at their job and they're like, I hate this. What do you
Mhm.
got, Silent?
That's a big thing for me right now too, just because I do have so much time on my hands outside of when I'm not training or so I find myself looking forward to things that I have planned and scheduled and trips, and kind of letting the days just pass by. And I think a big part of what you were talking about is like making the most of each day and finding a way to be productive and finding a way to kind of just learn more about myself. I think every day is something that I'm blessed with the time to do right now. Um, and it's easier said than done, putting yourself into that mindset where you're like, okay, yes, maybe times like this time of my life, like, yes, I have a lot of time on my hands, but it also could just pass you by so quickly. So I think like learning how to manage my time right now, like you said, like my time before this has always been planned out for me, you know. So finding a way right now just to be happy and be content with who I am and with what I'm doing is really key right now, and is what I would stress the importance to people who might be in this similar stage where they don't really know what's next and they don't really know what's coming. Like, enjoy that time, because like that's exciting. Like, you don't know what things are coming up next. Like, you don't know what the next things for me, for what God has in store for me. So um don't let life pass you by, because some days I get caught doing that, like, and trying to remind myself like every day, like, this is a gift from God, today's a gift from God, and what am I going to do with it? So
I love that. I love the gratitude. I think gratitude helps slow time down a little bit. I think it brings to light how much you have, and the glass being half full,
mhm.
because why not? Like, what's the alternative? Half empty, pessimistic, a negative outlook on life. I would feel bad for someone who has that and try to open up their eyes to see more glass half full, because there's so much in life to not go down this philosophical Socrates rant. But I just think life's challenging, and there's a lot you see, as your time horizon expands, you see more people be eliminated just because of finite time, and you see some things going on that, you just want to be grateful for the people you have around you, and the things you have in front of you, and the things you're looking forward to. That's so awesome. What's next, right? Like, what's next for the foreseeable future? We got season, right?
Yes, we have season starting in June. But yeah, season for 3 months coming up. But other than that, we got some little things in between that are pretty exciting. But yeah, just taking it, like you said, be where my feet are, taking it day by day, and yeah, excited for what's to come.
And just know that, like, listen, you're a hell of a softball player. You are a hell of a softball player, but you have so much to give back to this game, and you're doing that. And I think Nike is just going to magnify that platform, and everyone that in your community that is looking up to you, just know that you're the inspiration for them, not in the like no pressure way, just like in a cool way. Like, it's a luxury to have that responsibility that you have on your shoulders. So I'm super pumped for that. Like, it's more than just a game. Like, the
Mhm.
the amount of people you're about to reach, the amount of youth minds that you're about to reach is incredible.
Yeah,
And I
and I
can't
think
wait to watch it. I'm
yeah,
sorry I
and I
cut you
think no,
off.
you're good. During my like college career, I didn't realize how big of a platform we were put on and how many native people I reached during my time in college. And it's cool now, I get to kind of see how many people followed me, and how many people or how many native young kids were like, oh my gosh, you're a professional athlete now. And I'm like, yes, like you can do it too. I went out to Las Vegas during the Super Bowl, and there was a huge football, softball, baseball camp that I got invited to, with a bunch of indigenous kids. And just like, not like, I never realized like how awesome it is that they now have someone who looks like them playing on a professional level and who played at a very high level in college. Like, just being able to be that person for them, even if they don't see me as that like role model or whatever, just like being someone that they can look to if that is a dream of theirs as well. So, yeah, it's pretty cool.
No, it's amazing. Yeah, you're an inspiration, and you have so much. It's fun to watch. How old are you, Silent Rain?
23.
24? She's
23.
23, but you have so much maturity. You have a great head on your shoulders, and it's really cool to watch that. I'm not surprised by any of the success you've had or is coming your way. You continue to keep going and enjoy the process, and best believe we'll continue to follow your journey. Can't wait for season to start. Is there anything, Sai, that you just want to, closing notes that you want to touch on before we take off?
I think one, being where your feet are every day, but also when it comes to sports, I think not identifying yourself through your sport. I kind of got stuck in that a little bit during my career in college, and like everything, like my emotions, my confidence, like everything kind of revolved around how I was performing in softball, and that led me to play or to not perform. And the times I did find myself performing well, I was not identifying myself through my sport. I was content and happy with who I was as a person outside of my sport, and realized that softball is fun and it's a game and it's something I do. It's not who I am. So that is my drop the mic.
Yeah, no, we're dropping it on that note. That's such a powerful message that I think so many youth athletes and college athletes and pro athletes need to hear and find that message and bring it into a reality to help them navigate sport. So, Silent Rain Espinoza, it was an absolute pleasure having you on the podcast. You will be back for season 3. Best of luck this summer, and thank you so much for coming on.
Yes, thank you, Drew, for having me.
Of course.